Well, welcome back. Today I would like to, try and address the question which has to do with why men propose. Why do we propose to a woman for her hand in marriage? And I guess part of the reason I wanted to touch on this topic is simply because most women think that the reason we propose, or the reason a man proposes, is primarily because he is in love. Now, although I cannot speak for all men, I can say that most men propose not for love, not because we love you. We propose for a very different reason. We propose primarily for exclusivity. And that exclusivity is very narrow. It's usually sexual exclusivity. Most men propose simply because they want to take you out of the dating pool or the sexual marketplace. We propose because we want exclusivity. We do not want to share you sexually with anyone else. So for example, you're a young lady, you've met a young man, you're dating. Initially, he meets you and he knows that you're casually dating and you're potentially seeing other people. He starts to date you and he likes you. Let's say he even loves you. Both of you are still individually single and still in the sexual marketplace. A stage comes when he says, in his mind, I no longer want to share her with another man sexually. We generally do not mind sharing you because in life we share each other. When you go to work, you're sharing your time, your intellect, your energy, your presence, your beauty. You are sharing that with other people. But when it comes to sexual exclusivity, that is the area that we carve out as worthy of the highest price, which is to ask for your hand in marriage. So generally speaking, the reason we propose, the reason we propose marriage, the reason we will entertain walking down the aisle, signing those documents, is simply because we believe, and I should say very, very directly, we believe stupidly as men that we will get exclusivity. Now, once we are married to you, then you are no longer sharing your body, your emotions, your womb with other men. Now, I use the word stupidly because that is the truth. Now, we live in the modern world. In the modern West, people are free. We know that people who are in relationships have some of their desires sexually met outside of the bounds and the boundaries of that union. So I say stupidly because the promise of till death do us apart it's not guaranteed. For better, for worse, it's not guaranteed. In sickness and in health, it's not guaranteed. What we know from the facts, the data, the statistics, is that 1 in 2 marriages will end in divorce. We also know that the younger you are, the higher that percentage. So for those who get married early 20s, you have a 70 to 80% chance that before your 7th or your 8th wedding anniversary, both of you will go your separate ways. And one of the reasons people break up will range from financial, emotional, physical, sexual, intimacy, just general stress of life. So the whole idea of all the benefits that we think in our minds as men that we will get is an illusion. We are so stupid we will take that risk despite not having any of the guarantees for what we believe we are getting. Now, historically speaking, exclusivity was something that most men obtained, just like women obtained. You met someone, she was still a virgin, he was still a virgin. So you had sexual exclusivity. It was the first time that she was sharing her body with another man, and usually, back in the day, the only time she shared her body with the same person for the rest of her life. So there was sexual exclusivity. You got exclusivity in terms of her emotions, intimacy, affection, physical, and then even her womb in terms of reproduction. So men understood the price that we had to pay for that gift, because women, generally speaking, are gatekeepers to their body, which includes intimacy and reproduction. We got that exclusivity by paying the highest price. In the present day and age, we can get all of those benefits without paying the price. So all of the traditional benefits that came from being married are available to men, which means, generally speaking, there is no need for a man to propose if all he wants is sex or a sexual partner, or to reproduce and extend his genes, or intimacy with a woman. All of those are offered, sometimes in advance of a relationship. People are having sex before they actually start dating each other, because sex has now become a commodity. And the reason I explain all of that is to simply ask the question, so why is it that we are obsessed? Some men are obsessed about getting married. The answer, the reason, is because we're stupid. And so here is a question for the ladies. And this is a question you should pose to the men in your life. The man who proposes, or wants to propose, or who you believe will propose. A simple question is, why are you proposing? Now, if he says, because I love you, follow up with the question, well, if you love me, and you truly love me, then we do not need to get married to be in love. You can love someone without being married. If he says, well, I like to start a family, well, there are no laws or rules or regulations that do not allow two consenting adults to reproduce. So your response should be, we can reproduce and start a family without being married. You do not need an official piece of paper to love your kids and to love each other. If he says, well, it's the right thing to do, the question should always be, to whom? For whom? And by whom? The point of this question is to get to his true reason for the proposal. You should ask him, are you proposing to me because of exclusivity, because you do not want me to have sexual encounters with other men once we are married? Watch and observe his reaction. If he says, no, that's not the reason, then your follow-up question should be quite simple. Does that mean that you're giving me your permission and your blessing to have my needs met in the event that I decide that I want a variety or I want a different meal? If he says you're not allowed, then he contradicts himself in principle. The point being, you're trying to get to the reason why we propose. And the reason I say all of this is because from a young age, women are raised, groomed, influenced, taught that one of the most important days of their lives will be their wedding day. So women from a young age start nurturing themselves and preparing for that day, dreaming, visualizing, strategizing about what they would look like, what they would wear. Marriage is something women aspire to Men, on the other hand, are not groomed in that way. So marriage, by default, is something we loathe, we avoid, but we accept as a price to pay for a specific benefit. And this is partly why the statistics and the data shows there is more happiness, or rather, let me rephrase it. Post-marriage, most men appear to be in a state of peace with their decision than women are, because they have grown up expecting it to be really bad once they get married, thinking of it like a prison, losing your identity, losing your freedom, the woman losing herself, not being who you used to be, not having the time to play with your mates like you used to. So there is this expectation that this is bad. Whereas when we get into the union, we realize that it's not as bad as we feared. So there's a peaceful acceptance. Whereas ladies, there's a decline in peace, a disappointment over time, because most women have been conditioned to look forward to marriage such that once the goal is achieved, there's almost a drop in dopamine, a drop in endorphin levels. In many ways, it goes back to the concept of goal setting. That once you've achieved the goal, this is usually a slump in your happiness level, your performance level, except you establish another goal before the first goal is achieved. So for most women, once they become pregnant, or rather, once they get married, there's a feeling that, oh, is this all there is? This is not as great as I thought it would. The imagined experience was far more superior to the lived experience. And therefore others, some women, set other goals. Start a family, have babies, create a family home, and all of those goals are then things to look forward to. Now, to bring you back to the conversation that we began with, why do we propose? And are we just stupid? Are we naive? Or do we really, really know what we are doing? Now, I believe most men do not have a clue. We do so because of what I said, exclusivity. We do so because we think is the right thing to do. We do so without understanding the consequences of our decisions. So, ladies, put your man to the test. And if you are married or in a relationship, you can still go back and put him to the same test and see what his response is. Because in his response, you would find the truth. And most of the time, it will not come from his verbal response. It will come from his non-verbal reaction.